Alright. Attached through.
Hoping that works. Yes.
Video.
Oh, so they go. Hey, Joe. Oh, good. That's it. Thanks. Let's go ahead. You might have some things.
Yeah.
See you. Yeah, IT, you know. Good, good. Oh, I think I've always got. So much higher here. No, I'm still up. Missed it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right, you are. How do You know, I haven't been out in it in 2 months. Last I heard it. It was starting to get. Last, I think we had enough. Snow cover. Last week around, but I think. Great, how are you? So they heard people supposed to do a couple of guys are saying they were. Already have problems.
That, I was doing
I was like this.
Yes, survive the,
Yeah.
What's up? It's kind of. 4 feet on the accident. Much loud. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, yeah, it's just too bad you got, yeah, crazy. I guess I'd never seen miles where the end of Yeah, yeah, fuel water. Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah, you look. I don't see it.
Yeah, were you in class?
Hanging in there? Oh, I'm trying.
Oh, yeah, I heard you guys were up. I was just I was. That one's welcome. All right, right. Yeah. How about?
Okay, so you're nearby, but you're
It's like, you know, we got dollars on it. So. Yeah.
Morning.
Yes. I don't like that.
Oh, there was.
I heard somebody who's got a slide deck for Kurt. Think so.
Way to know about their interviews.
Yeah, staff should be.
So $1 million plus.
probably.
Oh, yeah. I talked to
I'm just gonna say that we're streaming, but we're not taking comments.
I feel like that was not my fault.
In our descriptions.
Yeah, we'll see. I spoke with them out in last year. And that all.
Should be fine.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everybody. Want to invite everybody to this morning's meeting and also draw attention to, this is the first meeting that we have live streamed for the Groundwater Board. So we are doing a live stream out via video and audio, and that will be recorded as well. There was a little discussion around that at our last meeting, so yes, everything we say goes out to the public. Everything within this room is still subject to the Open Meetings Act as well. For those that are joining online, I believe there's an ability to comment in the video stream. We are not, though, doing a live back and forth in the virtual stream. So the open meetings portion of the act is happening here. If somebody, though, does have a comment, go ahead and leave a comment in there or reach out to staff directly, and that'll get addressed later. With that, welcome. We do have quite a bit. There aren't a lot of line items on the agenda, but it's a pretty full meeting today. And so with that, the packet went out last week. Are there any questions around the content of the agenda or any updates that are necessary? And if not, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion, we have support. Are there any other questions? All in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We have an agenda. So for the Groundwater Board, we have 3 officer positions, the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary position. and we annually need to fill each of those positions. Currently, I serve as the chair, Kurt serves as our vice chair, and our secretary, I apologize, is staff, okay. I am open to someone else serving in the chair position. I'm also willing to serve in the chair position. What's the flavor of the room? Do we have nominations for,
I make a motion that you be chair.
you're just gonna stick with it again?
Oh, you're doing a great job. Yeah, you're doing great.
We'll take that as a nomination. Are there other nominations for the chair position? All right, then I'll take that, Kurt, as a motion for chair. For Adam Ellis as chair, second by Pat. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a chair. Are you willing to serve as vice chair again?
Yes.
I'll nominate you to serve as vice chair. But are there any other nominations? Everybody just swarms into these. All right, I'll make that a motion. Do we have support for Kurt as vice? Yes. Yeah, we have a motion and support. Other conversation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vice chair. And for logistics purposes, it makes sense to have staff as our secretary unless somebody else really wants to generate the meeting minutes.
Please.
So remind me though, how did we handle this the last time around? So the secretary position not being, is your staff not appointed to the board, correct?
Correct.
Can you walk me through how we navigated that last time? Because I don't recall off the top of my head.
So just be the same process of nomination.
Yes, I think the bylaws, I don't have them in front of me, I apologize, but do provide the chance for the board to appoint staff.
That as our secretary. Okay. So then I will entertain a motion for Pat to serve as the secretary.
Okay.
Any other conversation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have our officer, Phillipsville. In your packet is a copy of the draft meeting minutes from our December 15th meeting. Thank you to Matt and staff for generating those. Are there any questions around the minutes? Then I will entertain a motion. Is someone willing to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Do we have support? We have a motion and support. Other conversation? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. I did not specify at the beginning of the meeting, we do have a quorum, but as a point of order for myself, we should probably take the official roll call. Just so that Matt doesn't assume anything in the minutes, although I think he's already got all that captured, but would you be willing to walk us through that, Matt?
Yes, certainly.
Sorry.
Jordan Jortsma. Bill Kyers.
Here.
Adam Ellenboss.
Here.
Dean Smith.
Here.
Mark Baker. Sarah Pearson.
Here.
Steve Hexel.
Here.
Lee Michela.
Here.
Sarah Bowman.
Here.
Scott Muley.
Here.
Jerry Gertman.
Here.
Carrie Rivette.
Here.
Ted Malfoy.
Here.
Kurt Carini.
Here.
Pat Siskevich.
Here.
Hank Worksma.
Here.
Dave Cracker. Joe Bush.
Here.
Jason Shamblin.
Here.
Spencer Ballard.
Drew Shaw, Spencer.
That's all.
Thank you. I was just excited to get into this meeting because we've got a fun exercise in a moment here, but the one I'm referring to is the strategic planning, which will come to in about 15-20 minutes. Prior to that, American Dunes has been a conversation piece with our groundwater board in the past. There's been some groundwater withdrawal there. Grand Haven Township had done a groundwater study in the area late last summer, early fall. And as part of our dialogue here, we've asked Kurt Coella to come in and talk through that study and that situation. And I believe we have a PowerPoint set of slides as well. Are you gonna drive us through that, Matt?
I can if
Or is Kurt? Okay.
Kurt.
Yeah.
Want to give that presentation?
Yeah.
I stand up over here and talk.
Can you pop up this direction? Yeah, and then where's the camera's facing dead center?
Yes, that's correct.
Do we, or where do we want Kurt to stand then? Does that work?
You're right. Gotta love this.
I'm gonna let you introduce yourself because you can do a better job than I will. And then if you can,
Is that? Yeah, okay, perfect.
kind of give a little background on the conversation
Yeah.
that brought us here.
So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everybody for allowing me to speak and, we also got support from Grand Haven Township, which was really nice. They helped us, obviously do this study. They authorized it. They authorized us to make this, allowed me to make this presentation also. Yeah, my name is Kurt Kella. With me is Emily Lynch. We're hydrogeologists from Lakeshore Environmental. Emily prepared the PowerPoint, so it's her fault if there's typos. No, she's really good. And she knows how long-winded I am, so there aren't a lot of slides. So in any event, I'll go ahead. As part of the intro though, there were concerns in Grand Haven Township. There are a lot of concerns with the neighbors' ponds drying up. Then there was also, we had troubles with wells. And so they received a lot of complaints. And we left it generic because we were hired to basically make conclusion recommendations regarding what might be the fault. And a lot of people, said it was American Dunes because they are the largest withdrawal for that area. So we didn't go into it. We tried our best to be non-biased, and we didn't go into it with American Dunes, as the culprit, so to speak. They have been very good to us. They've personally given me tours of the course. They've done a good job trying to remedy the situation. Unfortunately, they're a large user. So in any event, let me go ahead with. So one of the biggest problems was, I'm sorry.
Could you speak up just a little bit for the poor old deaf guy?
I'll stand over here. That'll make it better.
I turned them up as far as they'll go. Starting to get feedback.
No, so can you hear me now?
I can't. Thank you.
Awesome. So one of the most important concerns at the time was there was a drought. So we had to back out the drought conditions to decide what was an effect from, area pumping and so let me make sure I know how to work this here. About that. So this is just a slide that shows our precipitation. And we took it back to 2019 so everybody could see how big that was. I don't know if everybody remembers that year, but that was a record for precipitation. I did a lot of work in those 2 years and a lot of testimony because that was bad. Luckily, since then it's been lesser, and this year we ended up being a little closer to normal, but we're still low and we would still be considered in a drought, largely because of 2024. So this is a chart we put together to kind of let everybody see how it all kind of goes together. And so we have these sites all over Michigan, really, but in Ottawa County, we have a lot of sites where we measure groundwater daily, and usually it's sometimes it's 4 times a day, sometimes it's hourly. And so what we did was we picked one of our sites that was real close to American Dunes. We picked one that wasn't subject to pumping from other people. We did our best to find one that would represent background conditions. I'm going to see if I can get the pointer to work, everybody.
I don't know if it'll show up on the screen.
Okay, let me try my old one. Oh, that's a little bit better. So we compared this from this station to some of the other ones, and it looks very similar. So some of the points you want to notice are, get it working again. Well, I can just explain it to you. Evapotranspiration, we had a lot last year. It was largely because we started into a drought. We didn't have a lot of rain and we had a ton of wind and sun. So it was one of the highest years we've ever had. So that was part of it. But one of the key things is if you look at where there's low evapotranspiration, that's usually where there was ice cover on Lake Michigan. And that really adds up to a lot. And it's easier to meet a point, but you get these big increases in Lake Michigan usually later on after you have ice cover over Lake Michigan. So that doesn't factor in as much to the problem in Grand Haven Township. Even though they're close to Lake Michigan, it's only a minor concern because its effect is really only in a couple inches or so. Precipitation though is the biggest one. And so you can also see that groundwater follows precipitation in years where you have a big high amount of rain, annual rainfall. Usually the groundwater goes up a year or so later. So that's what we did. That was to justify the fact that our background station was legitimate. You had to kind of look at it, make sure it made sense. You can see groundwater is low right now. We're not the lowest it's ever been, not even close, but it is pretty low. Most people built their homes back in 2003, you know, and you can see a lot of the homes were built where the groundwater was very low. And I can't tell you how many times I've been to houses where the basements are popping up because we're a lot higher than we were then. And it was just a bad time. The builders didn't know. It was just bad luck. And you know, they go down, they get 2 feet above water, a foot above water. And so anyway, the purpose of this slide was to show you how it all goes together. We have to factor all that in, and mostly to show that our background station was legit. So we went out, we put in to evaluate this, we put in these data loggers, these computer things all over the place. And the point here is here's how we did it. So that a lot of the concerns are in and around the golf course, and the golf course irrigation system is right here. So we strategically placed wells around their irrigation pond. So this is just a plot that shows some of the drawdown and you know, I'm not going to go through that, but so then it was obvious. It's, you know, some you know, I'm fighting Chat GPT all the time. I've been in court a lot, and you'll have the attorneys looking at Chat GPT and asking you questions. And you know, the reality is the days of an old school hydrogeologist are going out the window because everybody uses Chat GPT or Lawyer GPT or whatever they're all called. But the reality is, if you don't have to be a hydrogeologist to realize ponds were low. Okay, and they were lower than the ordinary high water mark and the ordinary low water mark. So it was pretty obvious what was happening. And you could see even in our short study, you can see the drop in these wells quite a bit. So here's where we show the ordinary high water mark. That's where the, you know, on 50% of the time, it's gonna be below that mark. So these ponds are low. One of the ways you sort out who's doing the pumping or who's the cause of the depression is you do a groundwater elevation contour. We did that. You can see the flow is normally in our area, flow is straight to Lake Michigan. There's a few slight tweaks as you get closer to Grand Haven. It's a little different, but this was pulled northerly. You can see right there, it's a northwest flow, not a west flow. And that is an indication right away that something's going on. That wouldn't be natural. If everything went down at the same time, the flow stays the same, it all goes west. So what we did is, this is a plot of the data real quick. And so what you have to do is you have to sort out your background slope from the slope of the groundwater at your data stations. And what happens is it tells you the difference. So here's the background. This is the well out here that we're tracking. It's kind of going along down at the drought. And then up here are these wells that we put in. And you can see that it's much steeper. I mean, the one was at a slope of 5.9 inches a month. So if you take that back, our study was only from August to the first week of October. So if you take that back, you can see that it reflects a lot of inches per month. And then the one well was closer, the one well was farther, but you can then see, we did our best. American Dunes is real good about trying to keep us in the loop. We did our best to see when they turned off, and when they turned off their irrigation system, you can see where it started to flat out. That's the inflection point. And so that inflection point allowed us to see what was, how it was coming back. But also they did dewatering. Because of the complaints, American Dunes went ahead and they lined some of their ponds. Originally, they weren't all lined. And the idea was if they line the ponds, it's going to greatly reduce the amount of pumping they need. So they were dewatering so they were both dewatering and running the course where it was steeper. When they turned off dewatering, it was literally coming back in just the course. And that's why there's two different slopes. Even after they turned it off, they still were irrigating, a little bit with the course. So that's how we sorted out who did what, basically. It was kind of complex because they had some ponds that were lined and all this, and you normally get into all these complexities. But again, like I said, the grand overall thing kind of tells you the picture. That's the great thing about groundwater. It takes all of those idiosyncrasies and kind of roughs it, all out. This is the American Dunes withdrawals, and part of it was they're authorized. They have huge authorizations out there because the course has been there so long. They were grandfathered, so they got a lot of their wells grandfathered at these enormous rates. This, schedules that don't make any sense and wouldn't be allowed in. 24/7, 7 days a week. Full on, and so even though they don't run that, their authorizations are very high. So what we did was to prove we in that chart I had with all the data, it showed drawdowns. And so what we then did was we plugged it into a model and to try and predict if the drawdown made any sense, if you could justify it with computer model. And so Emily put it in here and Nate, and they came up with a model, and it actually is very close to what we actually got in the field. So we both feel the model's good, but we also feel that our data was good because they support, it's multiple lines of evidence. So they all support each other. So one of the other issues with the lowering water table was originally at the start, I said we had water quality issues, and that's pretty common when you have a drought or when you have reduced groundwater elevations, because you're getting water that's a lot older, and you're creating these different flow regimes in the aquifer, and it's very easy to pick up water that's it's been sitting down there a long time. I mean, I did an age study on here, and this water, the shallow water at 5 feet in is 21 years old. The old stuff at the bottom is 56 to 80 years old. So you start sucking up older rancid water, you get a lot more iron and stuff. And so that was one of the things we looked at. So I'm going to jump right to the conclusions. Why is this important? That's the magic question, because we're going to have drought conditions. I mean, MSU says we're going to go 0.3 to 5 feet by 2030. I mean, that's a lot. And if everybody believes in climate change, that's what I'm a geologist, so I try to read up on that stuff. Ocean's going to get higher, everything inland's going to get lower. And it does that until the next ice age, and then it all flips real fast because then the currents are changed. But that's another big story. But anyways, the point is groundwater's going down. Lake Michigan is likely to go down a little. So American Dunes, they ran their water, they ran hard because it was a drought. So that's another reason we're going to talk about this ordinance a little later. when it's a drought, everybody has to give, you know, you can't, everybody sucks harder, it's human nature. Hey, I need 2 inches of, you know, I'm a farmer, or I'm sorry, I'm a hobby farmer now. I need 2 inches of rain a week. You know, I don't care if it's a drought, that means I need 4 inches, you know, maybe. So everybody pumps like crazy, they're watering their lawns, they're irrigating, they're doing everything, and it really puts the stress on the system at the absolute worst time. So here you are in September, and everybody's going to town, and you know, it's so American Dunes did the same thing. They do what every course did. They were running hard, but at the same time, they were also dewatering to fix the ponds so that they would be a better neighbor. So it was just, it was bad time. And that's why you can see that I'm alluding to the fact that it was drought conditions, but American Dunes is kind of what put it over the edge. And it was just because they needed water to keep the course going, and they needed to dewater to put in their to line their ponds. So anyways, they have these watts. They don't need as much as they have. Okay. And it's in a way, I'm not a huge fan of this watt system. I've had people paying money to try and change them around and do all this stuff, and most people don't give up on them even though they have them, because they're like, I don't care, I might need it someday. But the reality is American Dunes has too much. They need to cut, theirs needs to be cut down so that the neighbors can now put recharge wells in to keep their ponds up, or to put in more sprinkling to irrigate. It's I don't think it's fair that American Dunes has this unreasonable amount when everybody else is kind of stuck. So, I mean, there's I think there's even people in this room who need watt. They need watt approval so they can put in larger wells to recharge, keep their ponds, you know, levels up. So in any event, that was one of the conclusions. I'm jumping a little bit ahead to recommendations too, but their pond lining was just poor timing. They were trying to keep everybody happy as fast as they could. You know, most of the time when you do dewatering, you're trying to do it in the spring because you're point dewatering. You're not trying to dewater the whole county. You're trying to dewater your project. So if you do it in the spring, you know, late spring is the best. You're not sucking all the neighbors down, because if the surplus of water in the spring, infiltration is highest in the spring. Either October you get a bunch of on a drought year, but spring is always the best time. Winter isn't too bad. Okay, so Joe put in all this great, and I can I refer to you as Joe? Joe put in a great stormwater infrastructure system to prevent flooding. These people are flooding all the time. And if I go back to the chart, you can see it was bad. So he came up with a pretty creative idea working with American Dunes. They have a stormwater system that gets the water to the course. Some of it drains out and everything. And it's actually it's a pretty good system. But in any stormwater drainage system, you lose a little bit of your aquifer recharge. So it is great. It's 90% there, but you can't change the fact that a little bit more of it goes out the pipe than would stay there. They've done about as good as you can. It's certainly best management practices, because it comes into these ponds and it allows it to soak in the ground. But a portion of it still has to be, you know, it has to leave. You can't soak it all in next to the houses, or you'd be right where you started.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So now we got the flip side of this, because American Dunes was willing to make their ponds quite larger and redesign their ponds according to the project we put together. Now they put liners in. Now we don't get the recharge. So it's a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
Nobody point fingers at me and going, well, Joe, your project. No, it's because American Dunes is trying to be the best usage of water, you know, so it's a double-edged sword. So now we're going back to the drawing board, probably work with American Dunes a little bit on how do we get that recharge at that time of the year when we have too much water, usually in the spring. Number one, so their golf course isn't.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could catch that stuff in late summer and keep it around so you could use it in July and August.
And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with Eagle is putting in more, I've always talked about the trip to Amsterdam to Europe, where they're putting in more flood control structures. So you can capture the water at the time of the year when, you might need it, then let it release when you don't need it. It's a little tough when you don't have that infrastructure in now, but we're rethinking on how do we do this differently? Not just I need permits too from Eagle, from the state. But just know that since they lined those ponds, the infiltration rates are totally different now than what they were before.
No,
So now we gotta revisit that. So, because you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna get high water, get a flood. The 30 homes that we took care of for flooding their basements, they're gonna point fingers at American Dunes and I, and now the ponds aren't what they used to be because they're lined.
yeah, that's the quandary.
So we have to balance that out, so,
Well, Joe, you have a tough job, that's for sure.
but
it's
we'll
hard
figure
to-
it out.
It's hard to beat Mother Nature. I mean, I've tried to do it my whole life and I've never figured it out. But, so anyways, they moved a lot of soil around in their rebuild. And that might have added to the problems with the wells. When you move a lot of soil around, it changes the way the soil leaches and it changes the whole chemistry of the soil. It's very easy to have more leaching of iron and, manganese and humic acid and from the changing of the, it makes sense when you think about it. If you change the soil all around and it's used to be in a certain spot for, maybe around here, 6,000 or more years, it takes a little while to adjust and figure out where it's at. And in that process, there's leaching and translocation of both clays and minerals. So the recommendations, I asked Grand Haven Township to put water restrictions on in a drought, and that was, if they did it and they just slowed down people, even just mostly with communication. Even just the knowledge of it, just by having an ordinance, so people try to do better. You could save a couple inches of groundwater easily, or more. And it just depends. Like if you're like me, I've listened to Paul and I've got almost an entirely green lawn. I've got, dune grass and I've got these kind of clovers that grow low and are really nice, and then it's all mixed in and a lot of wildflowers. I can get by on a half inch of water in the summer. And remember, I can, American Dunes can't, but I can easily. Your grass will go dormant. Everybody knows that. You do not need to water it in a drought. It's not gonna die. And if you were to take your 2 inches a week and cut it down to a half inch a week, you'd be fine. And if you want, you can put that part right next to your house in a 10-foot strip and leave the rest dry. So anyways, we've asked Grand Haven Township to pass an ordinance to put a restriction on during times of drought. And in our report, that's when it's deemed a severe drought by, I forget the organization, but it's like the American Hydrology Institute or something, but it's the most well-renowned one for the drought severity. So if we get into that area where we're a severe drought, then you put that on. So then we recommend they solicit Eagle to reduce the watt for American Dunes. Their guys are here. We've talked to them before. They don't need that huge number I quoted. They're considering it, so I think we'll probably fare okay on that. If you were to ask Eagle, they probably would not do it. If American Dunes volunteers to do it, we'll get there. So that's kind of my point to you, Doug, and everybody. We'd like you to cut it back a little bit so that there's more for the neighbors. So then the other ideas, and this went to Grand Haven Township too. We'd like dewatering to be limited to the spring and the fall. And more importantly, if you're in Grand Haven Township or in Ottawa County for that matter, we'd like a different approval. We'd like you to have to get an approval from the township to do dewatering. they had a couple huge projects, and over the years, they've had lots of big projects. Where you go and you get your approval from Eagle, you get your water approval or whatever. And they send out their notices and it goes to the county clerk or whoever. And then everybody looks and they're like, what is going on out there? You know, and they're dewatering and water's flying all over the place. And nobody knows, you can't even answer the questions. So we'd like it so that if you're gonna do dewatering, and I can't remember what I wrote in the report, but if you're gonna do it for more than 3 days and more than a certain amount, that you need to get township, you need to get in Grand Haven, you need to get township approval to do it. So that they at least know and they can answer questions. And then they can have their fire department, whomever looking at it and keeping an eye on it. One of the houses had real bad water near the course, and we're recommending a water well assessment there. And it's a totally screwed up system, the groundwater conflict issue. So the resident has to hire a driller, he has to prepare a report, all at his expense. He does this whole, and then he has to wait a long time for Eagle to decide if it makes any sense, and around and around. And then if all goes good, and they say that it's the fault of X, you can then go to X. Of course, Eagle will help you, but it's not real fast to get the money out of X to help you pay for the studies you did at the front end. Well, you know, the idea is fantastic. It's great. It's tons of states have it. Our problem is you got to pay for it up front and wait for it to come all the way back around. And the main goal there is to make sure it's legit. So people aren't ordering these up left and right. You have to put some skin in the game. Unfortunately, the skin is a lot. So it'd be nice if there was a fund or a grant or something for this kind of stuff to get it moving so that it can happen a lot quicker. I mean, a lot of these people, they just can't do it. They'll spend $20,000 on a system. They'll have a new well put in cheaper than the study. I mean, does that make any sense? So in any event, we recommend a water well assessment. It kills me to say that, but in this case, I think it would be in their favor. Then ideally, we'd like to see municipal water extended out there. There's a lot of houses still out there in the dunes and whatnot that don't have it, and that would be an easy fix. It's a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure to go to, you know, 42 homes or whatever, but it would help the water problems, and you know, it would allow them to not have to worry about having bad quality of water. So I'm sorry, I got long. I ended up getting long-winded, take too much time, but are you allowed to ask me questions? Or
So yeah, I wanted to, well, thank you for talking through this with me. And you know, for those that are, you know, maybe new to the conversation or online, you know, there's kind of two facets of the groundwater issue that we've talked through in recent years: the deep aquifer and the shallow aquifer. This has really been more of a shallow aquifer conversation. But to highlight some of the issues that were happening over in Grand Haven Township, then point toward some of the potential solutions. So what I want to do is, I want to open it up to questions for a couple minutes here. I'm going to limit that to the groundwater board members themselves, for sake of time, especially. We do also have a public comment session at the end of the meeting in a while here, so we'll take the non-member questions at that point. But are there member questions for Kurt at this point?
Kurt, I was just looking at the Lincoln and trying to dig a little bit more, because you've also indicated that it's an older well and it could have a seal issue. You know how old the well is and what the screening interval below ground is? I couldn't find that.
Yeah, it's in the well up here. I'll have to get you the report, but.
Well, I
it
didn't
is
see
an
any
old
well
well.
logs in the report.
The surprise in it was that it's been good up to, it's a great question. It's been really interesting because it is an older well. The first thing we look at is, okay, you know, it had a telescoping screen. That means that the seal's no good, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, in this case, it was actually pretty good. And then once American Dunes repurposed all the soil, and started dewatering it then down. So it is old, but it was an older well, but it didn't magically at 29 years go to crack. But there seems to, again, this is one of those kind of obvious things. And you're right, it certainly could, and that's where a well assessment would tell.
So there was sampling data from before?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
So, and the weird thing is, there are cannons and lichens, and that's one of the things I almost always see when it's either been dried up or your earth's been changed. Those are unusual. They're harder to get down from the surface, as opposed to iron. If your well gets old, iron is pretty common. Tannin and lignins are kind of unusual. So, yeah, good question, sorry.
Two questions. One, the ponds themselves, before they were lined, they just would naturally drain out and replenish the local aquifer.
They did, yes.
So with the lining, I assume that you'll still get some, when the water levels get high, like in flood conditions, there's some replenishment of the local aquifer.
Well, with their, yes.
Or that it's drained away to another location.
Well, that's what Joe's talking about. What he's trying to do is get it so they irrigate it on the course. So then it comes right back to us minus evapotranspiration. So it's a little different. If you put it into a pond in the every month but the summer, every month but July, you get a bigger percentage than if you spray it in the air. So there will still be a loss. And that's what Joe's referring to. Once they line them, it makes it harder to get the water back in the ground.
But you are replenishing those ponds from a local well, right? Not naturally.
Yeah, that's a different question. We're not doing that. The owners themselves are gonna do that.
Right.
They're concerned about the fact that their ponds, they can't maintain levels, just like the golf course. The golf course needed to maintain levels. And so some of these neighboring ponds want to do the same.
Right, okay, but you want, I assume that once you line them, the frequency of having to replenish those ponds would go down tremendously.
Yes, yeah.
And is that something we've been able to track?
No, they just did it.
Just,
We did the best we could, but their irrigation pond was not lined.
okay.
And that's where that's where a lot of it happens.
Would you expect that there'll be an improvement to local water level then with lining those ponds?
I do, but remember again, you're taking away that portion of the pond that would go back.
That would go down.
Right, so you're putting more in the air, which gives you less net. The good news is they'll be taking so much less that I think you'll still be in the positive. So I think it is a good thing.
Okay.
It's just not as great as I think maybe American Dunes thinks it'll be, but it's absolutely an improvement.
And then the last question, the GHT extension of NITS water, any idea what kind of figures we're talking about that is?
I was afraid to call Pat and ask him.
But, you know, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's all. So there's been no assessment. What kind of distances are we talking about?
Well, I can't speak for Grand Haven Township, but typically there would be a special assessment district that they could, anybody has the right to petition the township for improvement. And I don't know that they've done that, but that's the first step. You petition and then they give you the cost and the number. Then you could go ahead and get that extended.
Is there any kind of a rule that when population density gets to a certain level, it's automatically extended?
No, unfortunately, it becomes an issue that, you know, the health department gets called and conflict arises, and that is one potential solution.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just had a quick question, but I'm not implying that American Dunes should be able to and the neighbors can't, but if the neighbors put in wells for their pond levels, wouldn't, and you talk about limiting the watering, that is essentially the watering too. It's a form of the water.
It's all part of that big mix, right?
Well, so right, why would that really?
Well, because their use would be less than American Dunes. And, they have the same rights as American Dunes, you know that way Michigan works. And potable water has priority. So, I'd like to see them free up, a lot, and we would use 5% of it to fill ponds.
I've got a kind of a related question. I want to take us up 20,000 feet. You had some great recommendations, but from a policy standpoint, I've seen, we've got great beach sand in this area, we need construction materials. But I struggle with, should we be limiting any new ponds, because that is a source of evapotranspiration, and so what's your, as a geologist, what's your take on ponds in general, not looking at these specific ones, but I know they are a source for infiltration, but they're also a source for evapotranspiration. In this region, is it a net loss, any pond?
Yeah, so it depends on the time of year, Pat, but in general, we do well in Michigan, so we're very close to even. You're absolutely a loss in the summer. You lose a lot in a pond. And all you gotta do, you're right. I live in Robinson Township. All you have to do is look at Google Earth and every third person has a pond. I mean, there are so many ponds, it's absolutely ridiculous. And in our case, if those pond, this is my personal opinion, but if that pond is used for construction material, okay? And it's not like my pond at my house, which is like a third of an acre, little dinky thing that was natural. But if it's used for construction material, that has great value. And we're lucky to have construction materials. You alluded to it. So if you're gonna build a pond for that purpose, that makes a nice subdivision or whatever at the end, that has city water or whatever, yes. If you know, in Robinson, everybody has 5-acre lot, we're all putting in a 1-acre pond. And it's absolutely getting ridiculous. So our losses in the summer are crazy high. And so I would say that, I would say I've worked in a lot of townships that have a moratorium on ponds.
Yeah. It's a wicked problem. I mean, it's no silver bullet. I was just curious.
I love them as an individual. I absolutely love ponds. I know that, Pat. I dive in them, I fish in them, I do everything. And I really like a good one. If it's deeper than 12 feet, that's a pretty good pond. Most of them are shallow. And, you know, they're just aesthetically pleasing. So to get off the pond subject, I would say that in general, there's a big loss in the summer when we need the water, when we're talking about these restrictions.
Thank you.
So we're gonna transition in just a minute. So last 2 questions, but
So the private ponds around there, not in the golf course, but around there, people really want to try and put water in to fill their pond up?
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah, because their ponds are low right now.
My pond drops 5 feet probably in the backyard. I thought about it for a hot second. Pump water into there, but it's all sand.
Yeah.
There's
You
no
can
way
do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you could do it, but you're not gonna keep the water level up.
No, but it's very, very common. As long as you pump, the water stays high. You know, it's just you're making a little mound on your little spot in the world.
Yeah, just last question. Kurt, is this a drawdown rate? In other words, let's suppose you put on even odd watering. Could you reduce the rate of draw such that it maintain itself?
Yeah, I'd have to do a mass balance on it, but yes, that would work as long as the net is better. And
So we don't know that at this point.
No.
are you gonna say the link to the meeting, or do you have to head out?
No, I was gonna stay, Emily and I were both, we wanted to listen about the new wells and stuff.
Awesome. So we're gonna move on to the next part of our meeting. Thank you, Kurt, for coming out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If there are additional questions, comments, please seek them out afterwards. We also, like I mentioned, do have a public comment period at the end of the meeting, where we make some additional comments as well. So thank you again. Moving into strategic planning, I'm gonna hand this off in just a moment, but we had talked at our last meeting or two about a strategic planning session, and those are the boards that you see up around the room. Paul, I'm gonna hand over to you. If you can, talk through, the exercise that we're looking to walk through today and how we're gonna participate.
This will be easy for me because I'm going to now hand it off to Joe Pierce with strategic impact, and he'll describe the process.
All right, hello, everybody.
You snuck up on me.
Yeah, I'm just been lurking in the way. So yeah, my name's Joe Pierce. I work in strategic impact, special projects coordinator, and kind of help with strategic planning like this. So the exercise that we have today, we're kind of like calling like an expedited strategic planning, because our goal is to be able to have updated information on all of your priorities for the board strategic planning that's happening in March. So it is kind of a little bit faster. We do have a very big group today, so it's going to be a little chaotic and maybe a couple. That's totally cool. That's good. We're going to get a lot of awesome information. So what we're going to structuring the strategic planning session today around is this strategies index that staff has created that is like chock full of awesome ideas. And it's divided into 4 like broad categories that you can kind of see placed around the room. So we have education, we have what I labeled as adaptation, and here it's called integration, but really those are kind of like the behavior change type strategies. Then we have mitigation, which is more like prevention, and coordination, like working with different groups. So what we're going to do today is kind of like 4 different sections. We're going to approach each group individually, and we have some of the different strategies from the index already listed on there. And then after we kind of go through all 4, the sticky notes, then you have 5 stickers. And so after we've gone through everything, then you're going to have a chance to go and vote on your top 5 priorities across all of the different strategies. And so as we kind of go through this, so each of you has sticky notes and a Sharpie, and then there's also some extra sticky notes and pens and things that anybody in the audience also would like to participate. And I'm going to ask you to put 1 idea per sticky note, because how we're going to put them up on the boards is by grouping them like around things that are similar. And so like with so education, where we're going to start, we've got a blank sheet. You can start throwing, if you have new ideas, you can start throwing up on there and grouping together. But then for the things that are already in the index, what I want you to do is like don't be afraid to put those ideas, or like, I don't know, reiterate, validate, like specify under those broad themes, and keep putting those types of sticky notes up there. Don't think like, oh, online resources is already up there, I don't need to say anything. If you have an idea about an online resource, like put it up there. Like, it's like we're trying to collect as much information as we can today. And so there are no bad ideas. So like I said, we do have a very big group, and I kind of like to keep everybody like, I don't know, on the same page, so that we're like, hearing different ideas and it's helping you come up with new stuff. And so how we're going to do it is that I'm going to start you off with starting to write your education ideas. And then I'd like, as you go out to put them on the board, to try and share with the group like a highlight of what you had written, just to kind of keep, like everybody seeing what's going on and helping jog their brains for more ideas. But if that is kind of taking too long, then we might end up doing a little bit more good form. Just keep things. See. Yeah, and I also I would enjoy for you to share your highlights, and I'm going to call on people and get people moving. But I also feel free to talk amongst each other as well, but just try and keep an eye on like what people are sharing as they put their forward. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions before we kind of get started? No? All right, so I'm just going to quick touch on what the strategies are that are already up there, if you can't see it from your seat. But so right now we have outreach campaigns, online resources, partnerships with youth and college education, then also kind of like the general community presence, which is kind of like engaging at like locations and events and that sort of thing. And so what I would all like for you to do is come up with at least 1 and maybe many sticky notes related to what you think is important for education in terms of priorities for the Groundwater Board. Put them on sticky notes, and then as you have your ideas, feel free to start heading up to the board and placing them where you see this. Okay. And also, if you have ideas for the future, you'll start generating those ideas on sticky notes, but we'll just wait to put them up until we're all kind of on that. You just keep things moving so we don't keep you here all day.
So these are each board different.
Yes, yeah, so right now we're really thinking about just like anything related to education. Educating the public on groundwater and different strategies, looking at what types of resources is the staff and groundwater board making available. And working with the like youth college education, like what types of curriculum development or partnerships with education is important, and then like community presence, like what else? Like where is it important for this information to be? Who are we trying to reach? Like any ideas kind of in that realm, but then also recognizing that, you know, even though this is a lot of good information in here, we have like over 20 people in this room, and I'm sure that we can probably come up with some new ideas too.
Certified blue, what is that?
Certified Blue exists on
It's right here.
Adaptation.
adaptation. It's related to Certified Blue.
I don't know what it means.
We will get to it. What?
Oh, so I, okay.
Don't worry about it. Good. Does anybody have a sticky note ready?
I start sticking them up there.
Yeah, start right up. So what are you putting up, Adam?
You want me to read them off?
Yeah.
So for education, make this the topic for the Ottawa County podcast.
Oh, I like that.
Educate our state elected officials. Visit planning commissions.
Adam,
board
can you
councils.
put down the.
Got one up here that says field trips. And school visits and social media posts.
Awesome.
And when you say field trips, what do you mean by that?
Did Kurt put that one up? Put that one up.
Which one? Field trips? I put up field trip.
Yeah, I let you.
Okay, so as you're putting them up, kind of try and, you know, put them in what you consider to be like-minded topics. What are you putting up?
Weekly or monthly, some periodic water conservation tips.
Awesome.
K-12 teacher education and classroom integration. And localized resources, data stories for context in K-12.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Community advocates on the socials end up showing like how people make it an everyday thing for them. Or garden enthusiasts, this is how I did this, this is how I'm saving water. And making it more or less, the county board is doing this and showing how everyday. Yeah, I like it.
I've got a number of things for outreach campaigns, again, social media campaigns, news campaigns, bringing them awareness to different medias, because people watch news from everywhere. Making sure we're trying to reach homeowners and maybe residents, but a lot of the issues we're seeing, and then showcasing real numbers, like how much water can actually be saved, how much money can actually be saved. That's really important. And making sure to be able to provide educational workshops for the community on how to, you know, reduce their water usage in different ways. And then the Ottawa Conservation District does, you know, native plant and tree sales every year, and we always try to have groundwater education at those too. So including continuing to.
Good things. Need some mailings. It doesn't need to just be online. We can reach people with all different methods.
Need to keep the local officials educated because we get turned over new trustees, new board members, and I've got and talked about different water issues, and we do have that education gap from time to time. So maybe it's worked.
Real-time data, what drought conditions, water levels, etc.
Cool.
I had county presidents who do outreach for citizens, educational things at the county. And also share this. If you have house parties and subdivisions, if you can get all the neighbors collaborating together about how they use water, I mean, it'd be much easier for everybody. So I don't know where house parties.
There's something over here. Stuff like that. That's kind of like grassroots and starting other kind of like community. Yeah, I like that.
So I got strengthen community partnerships, both right local government, but also like local organizations.
education.
And those talks at local community spaces, science on tap at the brewery or something. Library programming, provide modules for the libraries and reading materials for kids, you know. And presentations and a resource table at the beach or the campground. Done that at Warren Dunes.
Thank you.
One more, education to HOAs about, types of plants and things you can use.
Education for irrigation contractors.
Irrigation contract. Yeah, I guess we get it.
I had professional organizations, realtors, builders, folks like
Yeah,
that.
but right, but you're, yeah. So,
I got information packets that like greenhouses or buying plants. And then, the health department to send like a brochure about water conservation every time they send them over.
oh, yeah, that's for outreach, okay.
So just as I listened to everybody, I wrote down maybe a subcommittee just focused with partners, really looking at whether in conservation district, outdoor discovery network, parks, really strategizing around education and outreach, so. Interpretive signage at parks. And then K through 12 curriculum-based lessons. Web dashboard on all the great, material we're collecting on the groundwater. BIS page for that as well. And then the standardized presentation for local jurisdictions. Yes.
I can't keep up with that. Township training information, where they can do that. Encourage drip water irrigation wherever possible. Not sure if that's a education thing or.
I think we might head into that.
So keep these for later, because these are more functional.
Yeah.
Do some water.
Yeah, if we're more about behavior change, yeah, we can say this. Sounds good. All right, well, I think as a first topic, I think that was phenomenal, everybody. I think we got some like great specific ideas, but also validating that these are in good categories in terms of like how we're approaching education for groundwater conservation. I just want to do a last call before we move on to adaptation. Does anybody have anything else that they kind of percolated up at the end there? Capture? And also if you do think of something, I'm not gonna stop you. Putting it up after we move on. Okay. So now we're gonna do the same thing, but we're looking at adaptation. So like I said, in the index, it's called integration, but it's really just about those strategies that are related to behavior change. And so some of the things that we have up on the board right now are like stakeholder integration. So some of the different partnerships that are like directly related to this behavior change, household conservation strategies, landscape and irrigation practices, service provider training, landscape contests and demonstration sites, landscape rebates or low flow fixture promotions, certified blue. Certified blue is a certification and recognition program to incentivize water conservation practices, and then agricultural partnerships. So like there's definitely crossover in some of these things. But I think that, like I said before, like repetition is not a bad thing, because the more we see something repeated, the more important we know it is, and we know it's on people's minds. We want to make them that further validates it. And so go ahead and start writing some sticky notes related to what you think is important to these topics. Like I said, we're looking for new ideas. We're looking for validating these ideas, looking for specifics related to these ideas. So we're looking for agriculture partnerships. Who should we partner with? We're looking at service provider training. What providers? What services? What different household conservation strategies are most important, and how they be best communicated? What are the barriers to the strategies? And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Hank, did that answer your question about certified blue?
Yeah.
Kind of like OE certification before localized. Is it in place now or is it something?
It's something that we're proposing. There's a lot of factors to it.
Yeah.
So I'm working with nurseries to increase availability. And I'm taking service providers to be landscapers and somehow incentivizing retainers. Doesn't have to be monetary, some kind of a certification, we can say, yeah, I'm native certified or something.
Very cool. Yes, the same thing, water-wise certification for landscape and irrigation contractors. Encourage drip irrigation wherever possible. Recommended for developments in particular, implementing even odd watering days. And then encouraging people to minimize the number of water and length of time that they're watering and perhaps coordinating that. And again, the overall purpose is to keep flow rate and drawdown as low as possible.
Okay, who's next?
I think somebody's gonna probably follow a bunch of these, but planting native or drought tolerant species. As far as agriculture, continue partnering with OCD, the Farm Bureau, NRCS, help farmers manage water. Water monitors with sprinkling, just to help keep track of how much water people are putting on. And then it's a little bit more general, but continuing technical assistance, cost share assistance to encourage adaptation where possible. Agriculture.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where this would go, but having a concept like a master gardener program, but a water steward program where individuals can be certified and then they can be educators and educate people about it and make them water experts.
But let's put it kind of with these certifications just because it is kind of a related topic.
And then promoting methods and
Household conservation.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So additional landscape programming, so for natives, like from start to finish, series that can be done correctly.
Regular landscaping with their practices, or we can do it so it's not spongy.
I don't know, maybe probably here.
That's fine. We can always recategorize later.
I think just continuing demonstration sites, so additional county properties, parks, schools, that kind of ties into that education too. But-
Yeah.
And then working, a couple of people have mentioned it, but working with the local growers on natives and trying to come up with a sense that it can be commercially done.
Other stakeholders.
I had household design consultation and support. Cool. And then I had school habitat restoration and demonstration sites.
Oh, yeah.
Pressure regulated sprinklers and water wise controllers for homeowners. And service provider training, educate irrigation contractor.
Yeah.
It was interesting with our, I felt so much better when we went from our overhead traveler to our trickle irrigation. We've been to watch guys dig a ditch next door to the trickle irrigation and see the different dyes.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that's education. Yeah. Are you getting the water where you want it, or is it going way down deep?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big partnership. there's a ton of grant monies out there that agriculture don't know about as far as high monitoring and when to irrigate, when not to irrigate. I think we gotta educate our, whether it's cash crops or fruits or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. I mean, if they know about them, I mean, there's monitors out there. I went down to Marshall and they had 37 center pebbles. It was amazing.
I think that's great to be thinking about how are we funding some of these efforts.
Yeah.
It's like a great, specific aspect to consider for this.
Mine goes along, there's a little bit of soil moisture probes, most people don't know how to use them, or a tensiometer. And that tells you exactly when it's supposed to irrigate. And actually golf courses are real good about it. Not sure which side.
I think they do, are you saying like in a household sense or more? in like
Yeah, I would say that
in the household section.
if people understood, then they wouldn't know the lot.
Yeah.
Back to resident advocates, whether it's with landscape rebates or the household. Getting that out to residents and then using them.
Maybe
Showing people
household.
how they're doing it.
Got smart irrigation controls for homes, so just, yeah, putting a smart one on there would drastically change stuff.
Yeah.
I got, I think someone touched on it a little bit, but schools and athletic fields, there's still a lot of watering that goes on in that.
Yeah. Sure.
So posting a visual or a how to for how to plant or convert a non-turf yard.
I think I hear you. Sure.
And then I wasn't sure if this was here, but add a layer of local Google review for well permit requests. Is that gonna be done there?
Yep.
Right. Good idea.
Irrigation kind of in practice is how much water you put. Little, because you can put too little on and then waste it.
Yeah.
It evaporates. So that can be under your ag and put under landscape and cover it twice.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I like it.
All right. We got a lot of good ideas. We've validated most of the things on there. Does anybody have anything else? Behavior change wise, different ideas, different things that popped up? Doing good? What you got?
Certified blue is a great idea for businesses, but then also like certified blue ambassadors for people in the community to continue that education. So kind of a mix of these two.
Yeah. Awesome. Like I said before, as we keep moving on, if you think of something that fits back in one of the others, we can absolutely add it. So now we're heading into mitigation. We got a lot of complex strategies already on here, but like I said before, we're looking for, don't be afraid to support them. So what we're looking at is model zoning guidelines, zoning overlay districts, county groundwater ordinance, health code revisions, kind of exploring other policies, water recycling strategies, the groundwater monitoring network, infrastructure mapping and planning, and a coordinated future land use plan. I just want to point out that like some of these are like active projects, and so definitely feel free to I don't know, those are fair game to talk about as well. We're like looking at what we're working on right now, but then also in the future. So anything and everything you've got. We're talking mitigation. Start ready. While you're thinking about these, think about our question like, who is doing these? Like, where are they doing it? Like, how and when does it make sense to do these strategies? It's important for us to identify our priorities, but we're also trying to think what makes sense in the right order. What's our sequence? What's our time span? It's all great information to capture on here, not just the individual ideas themselves. Take us away. You just gotta start doing. Just gonna like down from the bottom.
So adding a layer of local approval or review to state well permits.
I'm just adding in that it'd be good to maybe review groundwater ordinances in other counties and states to see what might fit there.
Essentially, state, so, yeah.
I don't know, if it was us and we gave the crew new members, but going to the zoning planning commission, asking them to adopt something similar to Jamestown's, that's the small lookup. Ordinance.
Going under two categories, develop systems to repurpose crops, process water for businesses. Cool.
Mine's a little out there and very long term, but encouraging stormwater utilities, which would automatically incentivize more green infrastructure.
Cool.
Zoning ordinance amendments requiring public water in new developments. In Jamestown, we changed it if it's a driveway with one residence in an ag setting or whatever, like residential, that's okay. If it's a shared driveway, that's two residences. As soon as you go to three, now it's a street, and whether public or private requires public water.
Thank you.
These are under some ordinances, odd even irrigation restriction for all users. I think we did it on a countywide basis, both with public and well water would benefit from that. And then the other thought is just restrictions on new lawns, because it's a lot easier to adapt to thing on the way in than trying to modify it on it's already established.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna point out that as we're heading, it's like, this is our second to last category. Our last one is coordination. And on there right now are only two additional items talking about county support personnel and collaboration on existing efforts. And so, think about, like, we're kind of, I don't know, they're not scraping the bottom of the barrel, but we're reaching the end. And so if you are, I don't know, have ideas that you have not seen mentioned up here, like, now is the time to start getting some of those things up. Like, kind of regardless of whether we're talking mitigation or education, like, what other strategies are important to you, have heard talk about, have read a random article about, and are curious to learn more? Like, that's, I want to make sure we're capturing those things, and feel free to put them up here.
Increase public education for the groundwater monitoring network. Have live data.
Cool.
Allow local well depth regulation for state.
Illegal restrictions on water regulations for local government. I mean, how much zoning ordinance do we have and how much legal restrictions do we have? That'd be zoning guidance. And then who pays for groundwater studies or recharge? Who pays for this?
We'll just put that in kind of at the bottom, and kind of like a new, yeah. But that's a great question.
The future land use plan. I think a lot of times the assumption is the groundwater is limitless. And so having a groundwater budget for future land use planning and master plans would be.
Network. Somebody's working on
And that's what mine is about.
it. Yeah, put it right next to it.
Okay. Developing that predictive tool that you can use to determine which water availability is. Also have, I don't know if it's possible, local tax incentives for native planting or conservation efforts. I don't know.
Either, I mean, you can kind of keep that here and new ideas or maybe
Okay.
exploring other balances.
Okay, and mapping the aquifers in the county, determining their water quality. So that's part of the monitoring that one.
Definitely. Thank you.
Consulting environmental firms and scientists to oversee the hydro wells.
This is super popular, so I'll put this way down here, township water millage.
I'll get
Spring Lake Township did it, and they have public mains on all the roads. They did it years and years and years ago, but it's another option.
Large scale planning for county water lines, what, you know, what's it look like, 15, 20, 30 years from now? And the nation was intelligent. I don't know.
Go for it. I think that falls in kind of with the land use plan, seeing what infrastructure and seeing the future of that.
I'll build off that statement there. Re-exploring the vision for water in Ottawa County.
For water.
So I have business incentives for water recycling. So regional coordinated irrigation strategies, so.
That information.
And then density driven infrastructure, so.
This is for overall water management and inventory controls. In my work history, large hydro dams, for example, out west, evaluate entire water systems so that they can manage power production and know how high to keep the dam level. We do something like that for this. Not sure what we do.
I think if it does, if that something doesn't jump out, feel free to put it in our kind of smorgasbord option down there. All right. Anybody have any other mitigation strategies? So finally, our last kind of section is related to coordination. So I think we've talked a lot about different partnerships throughout, but I think that it is, like I said before, always great to see something reinforced. But then we've got a lot of empty space on these sheets. So I think I want to keep the door open for, I don't know, what you think is left over, what hasn't been mentioned, what might not neatly fit into our 4 categories, but really any other ideas that you have. It's always great to re-identify kind of who are the different people that we should be coordinating with, who all should be at the table, what types of subcommittees or groups or roundtables are good to have.
Really someone mentioned it, but having an education outreach subcommittee might be.
Yeah.
Idea there. And then I know there's a low impact land use committee out there. I think it was maybe headed by Paul DPW, but continuing that.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
We used to do quadrant meetings several administrators ago where we would meet quadrant wise with the different township supervisors and township folks. I think it'd be good to bring those back and create all of those connections again, that staff and people have changed over the years.
Got to collaborate with Allegan and other counties. We've got neighbors that are in the same boat.
So one thing, as I'm relatively new to the board, as I was thinking about this exercise today, one of the things that dawned on me, this isn't just about groundwater. It's water resilience, and this is, I'm not sure entirely where this goes, but looking at, right, trying to understand this is a bigger picture about, you know, water resilience across the board, not just the groundwater impacts. It started because of that, but we're looking at everything. So, maybe thinking about how what our title is or.
And we're looking at coordinating with others, watershed groups, because there's a lot of the same goals there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's your interest?
I think the only thing that I thought, but also confirmed, is the disconnect between Eagle and the county. So how do we work together in coordination with the county, Eagle, local township, you know, one big picture.
Yeah. Thank you.
Support approvals for lesser well isolation distances or depths to take some of the pressure off of the Marshall aquifer.
Similar to partnering with watershed groups, but just encouraging and supporting community-led science, and working with college clubs, education groups. Hopefully doing some more work.
Awesome.
I put on county parks, township parks, conservation district, ODC network, working together on the greenway spaces and product clarity and some other educational work. So
Awesome.
Yes, all great coordination.
I think I put public education with the well drillers. Cause these guys are dealing with it all day and they know what works and what doesn't work. And it's not, I don't know how to say, they're dealing with it firsthand.
Yes. All right, I want to do one last call for any of those ideas that might seem like a long shot, or just want to make sure we're capturing everything.
You also work with the lake associations.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking about watershed, but there's many homeowner lake associations. And also a countywide source water protection plan. Now you can do them at a municipal scale, but Allegan is branching out and doing one countywide. Why not ours? And a contest for water education content from maybe K through 12 or college. They can provide you with spotter for your social media.
Exactly. See some sticky notes still out there.
I'm figuring out my blue stickers.
You guys know what?
Yeah, what Sarah mentioned, at one point, we collaborated with GVSU marketing students, and it was a really interesting
Oh, cool.
effort for, I think, both the students and us.
Yeah,
So
I think mutual benefit there. Okay.
Just adding quick to that, CTC students are also.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Helping with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we're kind of heading into our last stage. So all of you should have a little strip of 5 stickers. Doesn't really matter what color they are. I think we have a lot of blue. Okay. So what you're gonna do is I want you to get up, kind of look back at all of our different sheets, kind of look at some of the sticky notes, start thinking about what you think are priorities for the county, priorities for the groundwater board as you head into the next 2 to 3 to 5 years. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your stickers as votes. And think about it as, I think we have our different kind of like sections or themes that put your vote in the themes that you think are important. But if you can be as specific as putting your sticker on a sticky note that has something specific, I think that's great to get, I don't know, drill down that information as well. And if there are themes that you think, because these are broad categories that have multiple things under them, if there's something that you think is really is your highest priority more so than others, feel free to put multiple stickers on it. You don't just need to put one. But definitely before you start voting, I would recommend just taking a moment to kind of wander through and look back at what we've come up with, because there is a lot of information. All right. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if it's.
No, I didn't even. Go.
Yep, that's what I'm. Yeah, there's a way to go around there. So you're thinking, what's most important? What's most practical? How should staff be spending their time?
Careful, that's.
Oh, yes, I guess so, yeah.
Like, there's no bad ideas, but what should be done first?
More about that. And when leases get bigger, we don't have.
Okay. I guess. Yeah, we see, sure.
There's two big things. One of those.
Okay.
The bucket number one. True.
Okay.
Like. I have to say Wait. We literally.
Just equal across the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second part of it is all resources that we would north of that access.
Okay, just like demos, like props and diagrams, things like that.
Yeah, graphs, diagrams.
Yeah.
Data. And the third thing is. Selecting.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, there's a lot there, you know, so maybe just.
So I,
Trace back to this.
there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about it. Yeah, so I.
Coming up the road.
So that's what that's my job. We've had So those things like, if you had real time
So we-
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's where you spend a lot of.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
I know.
Here.
Oh, I'm already. Hey, yes. Yes. How you doing? Yeah. Gotta go more. I can't see it. It's hard. Yeah. There, I'm very excited. Yeah, see,
Where did you go? See, works for people. You get my card?
Yep, I saw it.
All right.
Yeah, the overflow. So I had 6th and 8th grade.
areas.
This is students because. That's all stuff, but it's resistance.
Yeah, that's just the keynotes. Right. That's.
Yeah.
Somebody else. Yeah.
And working there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I might have to. Or the better. And you're saying. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah. It's fun.
Just use the comments. Where am I correct?
That's fine, I'm saying.
I just have a fact sheet. I'll just think through all this.
Evaluation of talking about. That's like, we have a 5-foot. Inflation.
So this is like.
Well, raise, but I'm not.
It's.
What happened? The blind skill.
There's somebody show.
Like it is, like, not just one solution.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah. I'm so glad to see that.
It makes it complicated, plain out, but like we have votes on everything here. I think people recognize that there's addressing all these sorts of things. I'm glad that sort of was right. We all need to focus on agriculture. You know, someday, I think it's great that we see that. Different than most here.
So that's who's.
So much.
All right. So maybe.
Thank you.
Do that one, can. Oh, my legs, big your money.
I am available, but I probably.
It's about par for the course.
I'm on.
All right, Joe, what's our next step?
Well, I guess, what else is on your guys' agenda?
I mean, do you want to review anything else with it?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of wrap up.
You did go down quite a bit.
So guys, we're gonna pull it back together. We're gonna recap this exercise and then move on.
So just talking with Curtis about looking at all of the different votes that we see up here. And I think it's one thing that's really exciting to see for something like an issue like this that has so many different fronts and different like methods of addressing and people to work with and all the different things. I think it's awesome to see how widespread these votes are, showing that there's like a lot of different ways to go about that are prioritized by everyone. I think this board is huge, you know, in a great way that's involving all these different perspectives and all of you have something to the table and everybody's recognizing that all these different things are important. Like the different outreach campaigns emerged as like a very popular thing for people. Some of the landscape irrigation practices and household conservation strategies, but also the agriculture partnerships were very important. Looking over, I see that the infrastructure mapping, like all of those different creating our like furthering our understanding of the issue and ways of looking forward with whether it be future land use infrastructure, the monitoring network are all important. And I think that also seeing kind of the groundwater ordinance and zoning guidelines of the different things that the county can do to really work with this issue. And then a really great bullseye of dots over there on collaboration on existing efforts. And then I think that it was really neat to see even new groups brought up in like who we should be coordinating with that aren't, I mean, we have a lot mentioned in here, but I think we're still identifying the groups, which is always great. I wanted to just give one moment to see if anybody has anything else to add. I think Jason, I loved what you shared kind of about the like water resiliency and how you saw that as something that kind of like spans this. Did anybody else have anything that kind of it's like a different insight that they had that might not be Post-it note worthy, but just you're thinking about after hearing everybody's ideas and kind of talking through what the future strategies might be for the ground report?
This actually isn't necessarily part of what you're asking for, but I did just want to highlight that Eagle just sent out a local leaders webinar integrating groundwater resource awareness into planning. So it felt very fitting. It's a webinar that's March 10th. So I forwarded it to the staff. So that might help with a lot of these ideas. See what Eagle has to say.
All right. And so then, you know, I know that this is, we just spent like about an hour, and I know that that creative process isn't something that you force to happen. So I always recommend that if you have other ideas that come to you, like obviously share them, feel prepared to share them with staff. Like I said before, we are doing kind of an expedited process to get something to make sure that we're sharing like the latest information to the Board of Commissioners for their process, but these ideas are helpful all the time. And also people watching online, definitely feel free to drop stuff in the comments or share stuff with the plan account. And then going forward from here, I think my team's also gonna work with Matt and everybody to try and distill some of these ideas to create this, like, I don't know, shorter deliverable, but then also continue to keep this index updated and keep planning for the future. So just, yeah, thank you everybody for, I don't know, getting on your feet and feeling comfortable talking and sharing your ideas. I think I usually had to pick on people a lot more, so it was great. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, with next steps there. So since we're an advisory board, this information will get distributed out to this group. It'll go to the county board as well, their strategic planning. They may have things they highlight on this list that they say, yep, focus here, more of this, set this one aside for later, you know, but they ultimately are going to be able to set some direction for this group. But they requested this of the body here, so thank you guys for your participation in that. Really want to see, you know, keeping the traction for 2026 and really get some good focus here. So with that, we're gonna do I'll say a quick around the room. You know, I'll call them board comments if there's something that didn't get brought up. And I know a couple of you have some things that you want to bring up to the greater group. As they keep it kind of short, if you don't have something, just say pass. It's gonna be a pretty quick around the room. Because then I do want to open things up to public comment in just a couple minutes. But Steve, I'll start your direction. Anything over here?
Nope. So, a couple weeks ago, what was that, a week and a half ago, I took some folks out west and put a kind of a tour together out in Arizona. And down by Goodyear, and checked out 2 different ways that they recharge their aquifer and have distribution lines for their wastewater. Or recycled water, reclaimed water. So it was me, Steve Hexel, Matt went with, Mike Wallfield from Wallfield Well Drilling, and what is his name, and Phil Kuyers. So we went out there, we put it all together. You know, we weren't there for a week enjoying 80-degree weather. So we got there on a Sunday night. I put the tours together all day Friday, and then we came back Saturday afternoon. So it was a quick trip, but we'll be given an update, probably the next groundwater board meeting, on what they do and how they do it out there. Yes, they're different than Michigan, but it gives a good insight of roundtable discussions on how we can do water better in Michigan, and work with our Eagle folks. I do have their ear now when I gave them the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality's recharge kind of executive summary on the permitting process to do it. And then we met with the folks themselves on these tours and went through, one of them was Mark Anthony Brewery, so look it up. It was corporate. We got a full tour of their site, their recharge, and then, you know, they are on the aquifer, 1,200 feet down. They're recharging 600 feet down, with 2 large injection wells, actually 3, I think, right? They have 2 new ones.
2 wells and a monitoring well.
And a monitoring well. And they do monitoring. And then we went to Liberty Utilities, and they recharge in their aquifer. That's a lot different, has a whole different system, but they recharge all their wastewater from their wastewater plants back in the aquifer in Arizona. They do it in Texas and Florida as well, but we just got a good view of, from a 30,000-foot view, what that looks like. We were only there for 1 day. We tried to squeeze it in. I thought it was good education for us. And we'll bring that back to this full board, the next groundwater board meeting, so.
I'll pass.
From the conservation district, just wanted to highlight again that our native plants and tree seedling sales are currently live. So if you want to encourage folks to come to our website and put in some orders for some native plants, native trees and things like that, these sales are a great way to just make these things accessible to the public. So definitely want to encourage more native landscaping. And then just wanted to highlight that, you know, Conservation District and Ottawa County Parks and DSI have been meeting a couple of times over the last few months, just kind of talking about how we can collaborate more with, you know, education and outreach, and working with parks as well to help promote their Connecticut County Parks projects. So been doing a lot of collaboration and coordinating behind the scenes.
Okay. Yes.
doing community outreach, mostly on socials. There's been, put it out there like what people would think would be a good solution. And people are veering more towards the development and density. You know, again, following the Jamestown Township example. And it was nice to see a lot of serious comments, I guess, instead of just talking about how the lake's there. It seems to be people are taking it more seriously. There was also support for like native landscapes. And then we've been meeting, trying to moving forward with collaborating with Countryside Greenhouse.
I don't have any updates.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
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 From a staff perspective, I'll just note that we're very grateful for the collaboration and thought partnership with everyone around this room and others that are here. It's a big undertaking. It's very challenging. For engagement we have and support, this is huge. So thank you today.
Just one bit of housekeeping, thanks for all of our guests, that are here today. If you haven't, please sign it. Thank you.
So one more thing, just to add, Paul and I are collaborating, some of my staff, his staff, on locating water lines, sewer lines. So some of that's already been talked about, but we kind of already in the process working with this team and one of my staff to dedicate to do another layer on GIS so we can see that from a 30,000-foot view of where is and map it out. And try to do a little better job of understanding when these local municipalities or cities are looking at doing something, you know, what makes sense. Especially when it comes to retention ponds, detention ponds, can we connect them? What kind of permitting is that? So yeah, those are just, I want to make that note that working on that.
Yes, definitely. And then pulling in our local unit partners on top of that and having those conversations more across jurisdictional boundaries as we look at infrastructure, development patterns. That's just really important.
Thank you. To our guests in the room, thank you for coming out. We do have an opportunity for public comment. I just ask that you would please introduce yourself and limit the comments to 3 minutes. But we want to start in the back. Any comments for the group?
I'm Brandon Beltma from Springbrook Supply. Just thank you guys. Just want to lend our expertise in some areas. We're putting on some classes in March for contractors. So if any of you guys want to stop in, see what we're teaching the contractor side of better practices. Some of the practices are not good.
Thank you.
Owen, I work with Springbrook, and yeah, I was just here kind of where.
Nick, go
You got it. Nick Emmerich, some familiar faces I presented back in July to the team here on the issues, which kind of led to Grand Haven Township saying they need to look at this more. Multiple complaints are coming, and then throughout the summer, see my pond go down. That was the least of my concern when I realized how many neighbors were impacted with their wells. So there's many of us right now that are getting our wells tested. Recently I've had well tank go out, hot water heater go out, and oddly enough, when somebody comes out, they say the comment, "Is your groundwater issues been going on around here?" And I just kind of snicker like, so I'm seeing utilities fail. My neighbors are seeing their wells have issues. I haven't got it tested for contaminants are in there. But there are many of us that are interested in going with the state. The township has submitted a letter from this finding to the state as well, that even at 78 million gallons being drawn, we're still having this many issues. So respectfully, I'm not sure what 20% is going to do. So we are seeing issues as well. The ponds that you saw there, that's my property. It's almost bare now. It's down 8 feet. You can walk across to the island. So again, it's not so much a pond thing, nor am I going to dig a well to fill it. That wouldn't be the responsible thing to do. So my wife and I are, do you fill it in or something going to change here? So going through the first time here in July to here now, Lee's done his thing. The township has submitted their information to Eagle. What can this group do? So I'm really interested in that. And the conversation's good.
on what can we do with ordinances? Can we limit it in a D2 drought? Can we seize all non-essential irrigation in a D2 drought? I think some of these things are in this board's hands, and I would love to hear the recommendations of what we can do. I don't know if we're doing enough, so that's my challenge back to the group here.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Reinders. Some of you guys probably don't know me, but I'm the township supervisor for Grand Haven Charter Township. I live by the golf course too. And as a township supervisor, we've got multiple complaints on wells, which had the board hire LEI to do this testing. Our township does have ordinances for watering restrictions, but the county needs to write those. So I am here to ask this board, maybe it's too big because 5 years ago I was here and nothing has happened in 5 years. Maybe this board's got to get reduced down so you guys can get some more done. But you guys need to start writing ordinances. You have to present them to the board, and the board has to know what you're doing to get these things passed, and you got to do it fast. We're losing our water. I live by the golf course, just dug a new house, built a new house, dug a pond for fill. And my water, my well water is just full of crap. I got my well guy coming over here shortly to blow it out and try to fix it, but it's been going on for months already. Don't know why, but the groundwater sucks out there. So Sanctuary, one of the guys asked about water mains. Sanctuary, which is a private subdivision to the east or to the west of American Dunes, is close to $1 million to get a water main down that private road, plus all the tap fees to, I think there's 12 houses on that subdivision. Maybe it's cheaper for American Dunes to hook up the city water, work out a contract with the township and irrigate the city water and not get charged sewer rates. Maybe that's the best idea. This county really, we need to start posting these non-essential wells, these decorative wells, irrigation. I don't care about farmers, but these non-essential deep water wells need to be reported to this county. County should have somebody overseeing these wells because most of them are hooked up with computers. We know what you can do with the computer. You can change the numbers that you're sucking out of there. So it needs to be overseen by somebody. That should be the county, or the county should be hiring, I don't care who, but this is a good company. Maybe this is who you hire to oversee these wells so they can't cheat, they can't do anything, and they really can, they irrigate when they're supposed to and not outside of the months that they're supposed to not irrigate from. So thanks for listening to me and not laughing me out of this meeting, but 5 years ago you did, and I'm really kind of irritated. So we got to get something going on this committee.
Thank you. Other comments?
Gail Wallace, Allendale. I'm sort of in the same boat as you guys down there in Grand Haven, Allendale. Had to lower our well twice since we've lived in our spot. I agree with the idea of the township supervisors approaching the HOAs for the independent subdivisions, you know, that are on wells. That's a huge thing. You know, I've said it before, we've got 4 of them that have come in our area. And you drive through and their grass is as green as could be. Stop watering twice a day. We can put restrictions on that. Education is a huge thing. I appreciate the notices on Facebook, social media. I know Scott has done that. I appreciate that. And people are not aware of it until they're affected. So that's a huge thing. Even odd watering days. I'm from Minnesota originally. That was a huge thing that we had done years past. Monitoring and educating farmers and homeowners to watch their sprinkler heads. So they're watering what's supposed to be watered instead of the road or the ditch across the street. Huge things. So just lots of ideas, and I appreciate all these ideas. So, and it's good for me to hear them too. So, thank you.
Good morning, Doug Bell, General Manager at American Dunes Golf Club. when the golf course started, nothing can happen without permits, well, there's requests to do something and to have discussion on it and then either approval or denial. So when the ponds were proposed by the architect to use some of the pond sand to reshape some of the ways to get some of the water issues solved, he started with the township. The township approved it based on the county's approval. So we go to the county. The county approaches us during that conversation about helping create the water district, the drainage district in our area. And we agreed, we put money up front to help that project. And the ponds were then created larger than we originally wanted. We knew in our master plan, all the projects that we want to do over the next 5 to 10 years, CapEx projects at the golf course. And lining the ponds were always one of them because we knew from day one they were going to be so large they'd be an issue in the future. So what was interesting to us as an ownership group and who I represent is that the county has been very open, active. They call, they'd be great to work with. The township, unfortunately, for whatever reason, has been more of an animosity towards us. So the meeting that Nick coordinated earlier this summer was a blatant attack of the golf course. If any of you, some of you were in that room, I think you'd agree with that. There's been no phone calls to us to say, hey, can we sit down? We have a lot of complaints. We don't get that. We just get Kurt's company hired to do a study that, interestingly enough, if it's taxpayer dollars, the study was done. If you look at the boundaries of the report, Lincoln, 168, Buchanan, Lakeshore, traps the golf course. There's a lot of things going on just outside that boundary that we believe should be in the report. So it's very interesting. Hank, your question, yes, our water withdrawal out of the ground will be much reduced with the line ponds, much reduced. Well below what we're doing now. We feel that's a positive. We're permitted by the state. We're governed by the state. We report to the state. We've done nothing outside what the law allows us to do. And we're working to make it better. But yet, we come to a meeting like this, front and center, where we're the big bad golf course. It's been there since the 60s. Do we have some issues with Kurt and the report? Absolutely. I'm sure it's not as bad as what Mark and Nick wanted. Yeah. So our phones are open. My email is available to everybody, and we're always willing to discuss what we're doing, what our plans are, what the future holds, and answer any of your concerns or questions. Thank you.
Thanks again.
I have a question in regards to ordinances. Isn't it the municipalities that have the responsibility and who have the power to do the ordinances, not the county as a whole? In regards to groundwater restriction?
I don't have the full answer to that. So yes, the townships do, and I don't know the extent of what the county is able to. So let's bring that back into a future discussion, because otherwise we're gonna go for 15 minutes off the rails here. And so let's come back to that one.
I could just have a quick antidote on that.
Okay.
The county has done an ordinance around the landfill, because that was a known source of contamination. So they put restrictions with respect to that. Because the local unit of Park Township didn't want it. That was our first choice, is to have the local unit do it. They said, no, it's your problem. So there is a mechanism, like you're right, local unit is typically the way that you would start.
I don't know enough on it to give a full answer on that. So I think it's probably a more exploration type of a thing. It may tie in with some of our storyboard.
Typically more involved with water quality than quantity, as far as I'm aware of.
Can I make one comment? Yeah, it would be interesting to me as a commissioner, you know, where the ordinances fall and where the legal parts fall. Is it the state, is it the county, is it the township, city village, is it Pat, is it Joe? I mean, I don't know.
Definition.
I don't know. I'd really like to see that definition. Is it Jerry? It's all Jerry's fault, but
It's
yeah.
all their fault.
Yeah.
I
But
nominate
how do we
Jerry.
deal with that? How do we deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be a great topic.
All right, last one. Then we're gonna.
If I can tell you in drain code, because I know it's been brought up to me that I need to do that. And in drain code, state law does not give drain commissioners the authority to control groundwater. I can tell you that for sure. If you want me to do it, I get sued, but somebody will sue, because that's how it works, but.
So we'll be coming back to that piece.
Yeah.
With that, if you have lingering thoughts, conversation pieces, et cetera, stick around. Some of us will be in the room for a little bit here. For those that tied in online, thank you. If you left any comments on the platform there, staff will get back in touch. But with that, having reached the end of our agenda, we are adjourned.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think this is the small cell thing.
Someone mentioned.
But that'll be important.
But I mean, I came in on the day of our calendar. No one ever heard of it. Right here. I didn't. Like, tell me, I gotta. Yeah. We never remember. This is.
It does point out.
But.